Welcome to Morning Infusion with Dr. V, where we are intentional about connecting you with leaders that have overcome so that you know that the possibilities are endless. It's Dr. V here, where our coaching program teaches nurses how to work from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. Our featured guest today is Ebony Shanae. Nurse Ebony Shanae is the founder and CEO of Scott School of Careers South and West. Here is a young African American dynamic nurse driven to mentor and teach, embrace minority students, and beyond to start with the basics of nursing by planting the seeds with a certificate to become nursing assistants, phlebotomists, and sterile processing techs. Ebony started a clothing line for nurses and inspires nurses to be cute and professional anywhere. Featured on WCIU, The Jam by The Look Chicago, and on Inspiration 1390 and 106.3 The AC Green Show. She is currently a full-time entrepreneur as a founder and director of Scott School of Careers. She is a part of the Chicago chapter and Illinois South Suburban Black Nurses Association and the chair of the Black Nurses Matter Network, a grassroots organization that seeks to mentor Black and Indigenous people of color to successfully complete their nursing programs. She is also the lead planner and organizer for the Chicago Nurse Expo, where post-COVID-19, she will reignite your passion to connect and influence all current and aspiring healthcare professionals throughout Chicagoland. Ebony enjoys being a role model and mentor to the underserved and poverty-stricken community. So welcome, Ebony.
Hi, Dr. V. Good morning. Good
Good.
morning.
So now, what was your reasoning for initially becoming a nurse?
I would say that one, in my family, we had caregivers, and I've naturally been that person that just kind of takes care of everything, everyone. And at a young age, I had, to kind of step up and make sure I took care of my sisters and brothers. My mom worked nights, so it became, just the normal, the nurturing, kind of innate type of thing to care for people. And I still do more than I do for myself, but uh, it's in me.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's interesting to me to see how the different stories, like how some people just kind of fall into it, like I just kind of fell into it. But some
Yeah.
people, it's just that natural way of always doing things. Now, you were kicked out of your mom's house when you were 16. Now, what did you live and why was this important in your overcoming story?
Oh, I would say it's important, and then I'll tell you where I lived. I think that, my ability to remain laser focused through traumatic situations and that resilience, it's God sent. So when I, got kicked out at 16, I told you, I had to sleep at the trap house. And, at the trap house, there's a lot of in, there's a lot of out, there's a lot of bad coming and going. And, I had to, have my book bag and sleep on the floor and get up and go to school every day. And I just, by the grace of God, I was protected and covered and, still made it out of that situation. So it's
So,
important.
so tell us, because we from the country. Okay, so tell us what a trap house is. Okay.
This is pretty much where I would say in the hood, because that's where I'm from. No shame in my game.
Right.
In the hood, this is where, we called it our auntie's house. So everybody has this auntie that really isn't your aunt. And you kind of go there and people are coming and going. Their drug bills, there's a lot happening. So in that situation, I'm just thankful that, I was covered, and able to, get up and go to school every day until I got myself out of that situation.
Gotcha. I love it. I love it. Now, you were pregnant as a teenager. Now, did you feel that you were able to provide a good life for your baby based on your circumstances?
You know what? I was also married as a teenager.
Mm.
So Yes, my son's father at the time, we married young. I was 18, he was 20 years old. And I think we were in a good place financially. You know, he was a strong guy, and I respected him for, you know, his hustle and what he had to do to make sure that the family was okay. And I was also a nurse. So, compared to the people that, you know, that were around us, we were in a good space at the time.
Gotcha. 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 Now, the father, and he was your husband, right? Was killed,
Yes, he
correct?
was. Yes.
Now, can you tell us about the moment that you found out and how did you feel?
You know, it was almost like because he was so strong, I knew he would make it out of that situation. When I got the call, I got to the hospital and I'm like, he's strong. I know him. He goes hard and he, everything's going to be fine. And when it wasn't, it was like, how do I tell my son? You know, what does this do for the dynamic of my son kind of growing up and not knowing his father, because my son was only 4 at the time when his father was killed to street violence. And what I remember the most is my son also feeling like mom was going to leave too. I never forget his tears. I would never forget how he cried, even if I stepped out the car for a moment. So it's a lot to deal with, and you know I was young and trying to navigate through those channels and make sure that my son was protected and he grew up knowing that you had a loving father. And oh my God, he represents his dad so well today.
You know, I think it's interesting how when those instances happen, how we become resilient. You
Yes,
know, as African American women, we become just pretty resilient, and that speaks to what you are doing today. It speaks to how you are showing up today, because it's a whole different ball game for you, right? Because you've got those
absolutely.
children
Hmm.
that you have to be there for. That's got to be good. So now you proceeded to go into leadership and long term care. Now, why did you choose long term care?
You know, I think that the elderly, they have this, you may not want to hear it, but you need to hear it. They do. And I respect them for their wisdom. I respect them for their struggle. And I just believe that we're standing on the shoulders of so many who have paved the way for us. And you meet so many people, and they can give you stories of triumph. They can give you stories of their trials and, you know, situations. And the level of wisdom that comes from the elderly, it's just like, how can I not feel indebted to them and just want to, you know, care for them and make sure that the last time that they're going to be spending, they get to spend it how they want to, you know? And I enjoy it.
It's interesting that a lot of people look at, long-term care and they don't really like it, and
Hmm.
I am very much like you. Like, I like the children between the ages of 2 and 6, because before 2, they cry too much. After 6, they talk too much. And then,
Absolutely.
and then the matriarchs and the patriarchs of the families. And one of the reasons why is because they are, like you said, they give you that wisdom, and they don't mind telling you exactly how they feel, what they feel, when they feel it. And it gives you a different sense of them, and sometimes, a lot of times, their bodies are ravaged because of the disease processes, but
Yes,
they have so much knowledge
they have so much,
and
so
so much
much.
wisdom. I mean,
Uh,
it's crazy,
yes.
crazy, crazy. I
I
love it.
could walk down the street and I'm like, when I see it, I'm just like, I'm in awe when I see women and, you know, the elderly, they exuberate so much to me, so much wisdom. And I'm like, if I get close to them, I'll be able to brush a little bit of that wisdom onto me.
I love it. Now, you started your school, which I think is pretty phenomenal. Okay. Now,
Thank
who do
you.
you serve and what prompted you to start a school?
I serve, I would say that the school is open to the public, of course,
Uh-huh.
but I look for young women who I can also see myself in, because I want to be able to connect to them and let them know that, I am you. There is a way, out of no way. I work in, lower income areas, specifically to be able to find, those diamonds in a rough that, they may be looking for a career. They have children and they feel like, they don't know where to turn to. So being able to connect, and then also working in African American communities, they want to see educators that look like them. They feel, from the stories that I've gotten, they feel like it's a different connection. They feel like, they can connect better. You can say my name, just different things that I've heard from students. Dr. V, I've heard it all. I had a student in my class who came to me and she told me, you know what, I'm here. Last summer, I didn't know if I was going to be here. I was pregnant. I was shot 7 times. And I'm like, oh my God,
Wow.
thank God.
So do you think that, so tell me how you feel that your background, right?
Hmm.
Being, in the trap house and then
The trap house.
yeah, being in the trap house and having a husband who was shot and killed, or however he was killed. Um, how does that help you today? Like, how does that help you resonate with the people that you teach?
I understand. So I make it my business to meet them where they are. I know that's the correct way to say that, but I always say, we got to meet them where they at. That's how I put it out there. I know who my audience is. I know what I'm saying. I know how I'm saying it, and I can correct the situation when it's time for it to be corrected, and not stand on a person's neck for the way that they were brought up, because I know that we're forever learning. And as long as you're teaching them, as long as they respect you, as long as they know that you're genuine, the change is coming.
And I think it's really important too as well that you have went through that. Do you ever share your story with them?
Oh, I have. I have. It's mainly when we have a CPR night,
Mhm.
because my child's father was shot and killed. And nobody did CPR because nobody knew how. So they
Wow.
get it from me on that night.
I think it's important, whenever that story is told, right? Because, they hear that story and they're like, "Oh, she understands. She gets
Yep.
it. And she's been where I'm at," right? And I think that we get into, because I used to, and people tell me this all the time, because I have Dr. V, it's Dr. V at this time, right?
Hmm.
Some people can't resonate, right? Because of the Dr. V, right? But it won't always Dr. V, right? And it
Right.
won't always Ebony Shanae, owner of the
Exactly.
school, right? And
Exactly.
so understanding that there was a space when we didn't know we were going to get there here, right? We were wondering whether we were going to make it or not, but it was that persistence, and that it was that tenacity, and it was
Yes.
that amazing drive
Absolutely.
that we have that has just changed the game. And a lot of people say, well, everybody can't be like you, but I really think that everybody can. I think that you have to just, it's a literally, it's a mind shift,
It
right?
is.
And once you shift your mind, increase your capacity to receive, then you can receive. So I love that.
Yes.
So now, what is some advice you would give someone that is starting a school for the first time?
I thought about that question, and it's one that I thought about the other day because I'll be speaking on a platform in Vegas for people who aspire to open their own schools. And I would just say we have to establish a set of values. I understand that it's a business, but you also need to establish a set of values because you want your business to be sustainable, right?
Right.
We want to make money, but I also feel like your name should be good. You don't want to tarnish your name because you make it all about money, because you don't have good customer service, because you don't know how to serve, because we are servicing the public. But also, you need to be ready to grind. It's grind season, and one of those things that one of my mentors that I listen to, Eric Thomas, even though I have not met him personally, is like everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what beasts do. So you got to be ready to grind. No sleep. Sometimes you have to sacrifice, your meal. You have to be the secretary. You have to be the instructor. You have to be finance. You are HR. So, be ready.
It is true. You're the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, right?
Yes, that
And
thing.
and I love that, what you said about the integrity and the customer service, because at the end of the
Yes.
day, you want to make sure that you're providing, again, that service. Winners don't cheat, cheaters don't win. I'm a firm believer of that. And
Hmm.
so I don't go in, I don't go into any situation and be like, well, I'm just going to take, 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 take. I'm going to give.
Absolutely.
The
Absolutely.
goal is to give. And at
Hmm.
the end of the day, and money is just a conduit.
Hmm.
And when you get that and understand that it is just a conduit, understand that we are just here to serve. That's the highest form of who we are, pretty
Hmm.
much for the most part, because that's what Jesus did, right?
Your
He
cup will runneth over.
served. Exactly, exactly. And so and that grind. Because there are some times, Shanette, she is one of my friends now. I tell her that she's my friend, whether she wants to, and we've never met each other. Jeanette, so we were talking on the phone one day, and she said that she doesn't watch TV. She said,
Hmm.
it's not anything wrong with watching TV, but that's just not what she does. She is a constant consumer of information.
Yes.
She's a constant consumer. It is information. I believe that the formula to success is information, access, and the way that you get access is just to move, right?
Absolutely. You
You
have to move.
move, and when you move, that access will come. And have the faith that that access will come. Have that
Yep.
big goal, and then that faith, and then that access will come. I love it. I love it. So now, who is someone that has impacted your life, and why were they so impactful?
Good question, Dr. V. I would say that my mom has been the most impactful, even in her absence. And that is huge because for most of my life, there has been this absence of a mother figure. My mom is bipolar and she's schizophrenic. So up until I was around maybe 8 years old, this has been her diagnosis. So I look at her, and even, as she had a nervous breakdown, maybe I want to say maybe about 5 weeks ago, and she was in my home, and we had to kind of get her to the hospital. It was not an easy task. My sister and I, it's a lot for us, and it hurts, you know, it hurts to see a person that you love, and especially your mom, going through something like that. And I remember my grandmother. My grandmother was a strong woman, and she had her flaws. But I think that in those flaws and in that pain, that thorn in my side, it keeps me humble, and it also keeps me strong at the same time, being able to kind of bounce off of those weaknesses that I see, because nothing's perfect. But it hurts, but I also understand that in that pain, there's my strength.
I love it. And and that is just so, and that so resonates with me, because you know it's that humble, it's being
Hmm.
that, being humble in that, because you understand, you even understand where the people that you teach come from. You
Yes.
understand them what you teach, and you understand other people who are coming into your program, and your children for that matter, right? You
Hmm.
understand so much because of that humbleness. You sit back and you say, well, there by the grace of God, it could have been me,
Yep.
right? There by the grace of God. And so I need to just sit back and say, okay, all right, Lord, I see you.
Mhm. At any moment, things can be swept right from up under our feet. So,
We need to be thankful every day. And I have a grateful journal that I write in every morning, and it's 10 things under. I shouldn't say I do it every morning. I be lying. I don't need to lie on this. Most mornings.
you don't want to end up in a trap house, Dr. V.
most mornings, okay? I write 10 things that I'm grateful for under $10. And so it helps me stay in that place because
Nice.
sometimes we can get to the point where we're not grateful and we're thinking, woe is me.
Mm,
And I
somebody
mean,
else has it much worse.
much worse,
Hmm.
much worse for sure. So now, what is a book that has been impactful and why was it so impactful?
I got two. A recent book, but then also a book that I read in my childhood. I Know Why the Cage Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Uh, just phenomenal. Just phenomenal. The ability to rely on your character and having a heart of love to get through traumatic situations. And I would say that I have been through some pretty traumatic situations. If we had more time, I'd be able to tell you. I remember, being on the ambulance strapped down because I didn't know, if I was paralyzed or not. It's just a lot to take in, but then also understanding that um, character. It's a there's a lot that comes from that book that lets you know that you can fall into, or you can fall off of the wagon, or you can give into the things that are trying to weigh you down, or you can rise above it and you can come out on top. So the book is just amazing. Maya Angelou, one of my favorite. I'm sure you know about her. And then there's also this other book that I have been reading on and off. It's called Millionaire Woman Next Door. And in that book was the first time that I had learned about beta women. And he teaches you that beta women are women that rise above, that come from situations where they statistically were not supposed to make it, but somehow they got out of the situation and they just soared, or the strength that they have and the tenacity and just the grind that beta women have in them. And that's me all day long because I'm going to grind it out, Dr. V.
I love it. I love it. Now, tell us about you being strapped down and paralyzed.
Well, that's another story. But I remember there was a time where I told my son's father, from this is before he was killed, that the street life, it was just too much, and I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna go and stay with my dad in Wisconsin. And before I knew it, he had turned the car into the nearest building. And not only that, I had been taken from my job, and I'm sure they were looking for me because I was only on a lunch break, but I never made it back. I ended up in a hospital. So
Because of that, like, there's so many questions.
I
Were
know
you?
that's a whole different podcast.
So we might have to do a follow up.
A whole different podcast. Yes.
So it was a safe. Is it safe to say that it was not a safe situation with your son's father?
It was not a safe situation at a moment in time where I felt like, we can't keep going down this road and I'm going down this road.
Gotcha. 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 Well, we're gonna have to have you back so that you can tell us all those stories because you didn't tell me all the stories. And this is what I want to say about this because on Monday I interviewed Jamie Bryan, and then and
Hmm.
not just Jamie. I mean, there's plenty more, but plenty more people. But it it was so ironic that between you and Jamie, one of the things that was very clear was that you were that beta woman that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And it was because like the stories, right? So Jamie didn't, she had a child that died at childbirth, right? And you, suffered the death of your of your child's father. And just those stories of resilience and just, I'm going to continue no matter what.
Hmm.
Nobody's going to stop me.
Absolutely.
We're gonna rely on God and we're gonna move forward.
Hmm.
You're gonna put one foot in front of the other. And it was like you were telling the stories, and this is because we do a but prior to coming on live,
Hmm.
we always talk, and so we were talking, and both of you, this is the thing that was so different about both of you. You told me the story like it was just like it was, you were telling me about the a pin in the floor,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah.
And what I feel in that is that what you feel, this is how I looked at that. It's like things don't happen to me, they happen for me.
Absolutely.
And I feel like
That's
that you
strong.
guys feel like that's what it is. It's a pin in the floor, something that happened. I hate that it happened, but it is a part of my story. And had it not been part of my story, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah, that's strong. That's strong. And when I mentor people, I always say, this happened, this happened, this happened, but nothing stopped me. Nothing stopped me. So, yes, it is a part of who I am. And it's a part of, if I didn't go through that, what would I have to offer to the people I seek to help as, I continue to serve in this thing we call life?
I beta woman. I love it. So now where can the audience find you?
You're looking for me. I'm on all social media platforms except Snapchat. I don't know how to work that. I
Me
am on
either.
Facebook.
Me either.
I am on Facebook as Ebony Shanae. I am on Instagram as Nurse Ebony Shanae. You can look up the clothing line. It's My Nurse Design, and we are Scott School of Careers. If anyone is looking in the Chicagoland area, Northwest Indiana, you can find me out here. Oh, Black Nurses Matter as well. That's our social platform, our grassroots organization. We'll be doing a summit on maternal health this weekend in Chicago, all about making sure that
Okay, good. Now that last part we didn't get. So say that last part again. The
lost
summit
my
in
sound on you,
Chicago.
Dr. V.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we lost sound.
Okay. So I think that they can hear you. At least I can hear you anyway. So we're at the end of the podcast. So it's cool. All right. So we will be starting another cohort of VP Nursing Business Academy in October. It is a 6-month comprehensive program that leads nurses and coaches working from their computers anywhere around the world, making money and owning their own time. If this interests you, you can jump on a call so that you are able to gain clarity on how to create multiple streams of income. You can sign up at V as in Victor, P as in Paul, nursing.com. I ask that you like and share this podcast. And know that Morning Infusion with Dr. V is where we are intentional about connecting you with leaders that have overcome, such as Ebony Shanae, so that you know that the possibilities are endless. You guys have a phenomenal rest of your day.